It's 6 p.m. time for the news bulletin on Channel 2. I am Bethha, and starting off with the main headlines of the day. Welcome back, the news in full. Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouli said today that President Abdel-Fattah el-Sisi attaches a top priority to the development of Upper Egypt governorates through the implementation of various development and services projects and the provision of work opportunities for youth. The Prime Minister made these remarks in a visit to Central Hospital in Asyut Governorate at the start of an expanded tour there, stressing that the health sector is at the forefront of the government's action plan and is regularly followed by President Sisi. On his way to the hospital, Madbouli saluted teachers and students of a key private school who lined in front of the school and welcomed the ministerial delegation headed by the Prime Minister. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Madbouli inspected the pace of work at the projected duality of the Asyut-Dairut Agricultural Road, one of the projects carried out under the presidential initiative A Decent Life. He was also briefed on the progress of work at other roads and bridges projects. To the same end, the Prime Minister inaugurated a flyover at the northern entrance of Asyut Governorate. The project aims at achieving traffic flow at the intersection of the agricultural road with the entrance to the Western Desert Road. The flyover also helps linking many villages across the governorate. Minister of Foreign Migration and Egyptian Expatriates Affairs Badr Abdelati today announced the signing of a cooperation agreement with the Hungarian side in the energy sector to the tune of €600 million investments. The Foreign Minister made these remarks in a press conference with Hungary's Minister of Foreign Affairs and Trade, Peter Szijjártó, adding their talks tackled the Arab-Islamic plan for Gaza reconstruction. The Hungarian guest, meanwhile, hailed Egypt's efforts for restoring peace and stability to the region. The two top diplomats have met on enhancing bilateral ties, where they also exchanged viewpoints regarding a number of regional and international issues of mutual concern. They, in particular, discussed the ongoing escalation in the Gaza Strip and the occupied West Bank. Minister of Foreign Migration and Egyptian Expatriates Affairs Badr Abdelati today discussed with British Secretary of State for Foreign and Commonwealth Affairs David Lammy boosting bilateral ties in the political, economic and investment fields. The phone conversation also tackled the latest regional developments, the forefront of which is Gaza, with the top diplomat briefing his British counterpart on Egypt's efforts for returning to the ceasefire agreement and starting the implementation of its second phase in order to hold the current Israeli escalation. Abdelati reiterated Egypt's supportive stance to Sudan security and stability. In another phone call with his Iranian counterpart, Abbas Araghchi, the foreign minister urged self-restraint, calling on Tehran to avoid any unilateral actions which may increase tensions in the region. On Gaza, Abdelati reviewed Egypt's efforts to return to the second phase ceasefire deal in order to contain the current escalation. Palestinian medical sources said that at least 17 Palestinians were killed in heavy airstrikes by the Israeli occupation forces in the Gaza Strip since dawn. The Palestinian Health Ministry said that Israeli occupation strikes on the Gaza left 40 Palestinian kills and at least 146 removal of the Israeli occupation troops from Lebanon territory. Lebanese President Joseph Aoun, who took office in January, is set to start talks with Hezbollah about its weapons arsenal. Meanwhile, Hezbollah denied reports suggesting that the group is using Beirut, which witnessed one of the strongest non-nuclear explosions ever in 2020, to smuggle weapons. Yemen Houthi group said today that overnight strikes blamed on the United States killed 3 people in the capital Sana'a. Areas of Yemen like Sana'a and Hodeidah have seen near daily strikes since Washington on March 15 intensified an air campaign against the Houthi group to force them to stop threatening vessels in key maritime routes. However, the Houthis have also resumed talks targeting U.S. military ships, saying they are acting in solidarity with Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. Iran said today that it may suspend cooperation with the UN nuclear watchdog if external threats continue, after U.S. President Donald Trump again warned of military force if Tehran does not agree to a nuclear deal. Iranian and American diplomats will start dialogue on Tehran nuclear program, with Trump saying he would have the final word on whether talks are reaching a breakdown, which would put Iran in great danger. While the U.S. insists that the talks with Iran will be direct, Iran has stressed the negotiations will be indirect. U.S. and Russian delegations held talks in Istanbul today on normalizing the work of their diplomatic missions after the conflict in Ukraine triggered the biggest confrontation between Moscow and the West since the death of the Cold War. According to Russia's foreign ministry, the main focus of Moscow and Washington was restoring the work of diplomatic missions after relations between the two nuclear powers were complicated by years of frauds, mutual claims of intimidation, even freezing of diplomacy property. The U.S. State Department spokesperson asserted that Ukraine was not on the agenda, adding that normalizing a bilateral relationship overall can only happen once there is peace between Russia and Ukraine. Russia said today it had captured another village in the northeastern Ukrainian region of Sumy, where Moscow is advancing since pushing Ukrainian troops out of most of its western Kursk region. Details follow.
Ukrainian Deputy Prime Minister said on Thursday technical consultations between the U.S. and Ukraine on a mineral deal will begin in Washington on Friday and will not interfere with Kiev's other financial commitments. U.S. President Donald Trump is seeking a bilateral mineral deal as part of a peace push to end Russia's war in Ukraine. He also sees it as a way to recover billions of dollars spent on military assistance to Kiev, though the aid was not alone. Speaking to reporters in Brussels, Ukrainian Deputy Prime Minister said that U.S. and Ukrainian teams would meet on Friday and echoed Kiev's stance that any potential deal will not clash with obligations tied to aid from the European Union or International Monetary Fund. On the ground, Russia's army on Thursday said it had captured another village in Ukraine's northeastern Sumy region, where Moscow is advancing, having pushed Ukrainian troops out of most of its western Kursk region. Meanwhile, the Kremlin said Thursday that Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky was wrong to suggest Russia was dragging China into the Ukrainian conflict, after Kiev claimed many Chinese citizens were fighting for Moscow. Earlier, Russia's defense ministry said that Russian air defense systems destroyed 48 Ukrainian drones over Russian regions overnight and in the morning on Thursday.
Deputy Prime Minister for Industrial Development, Minister of Industry and Transportation Kamil Al-Wazir, and the U.S. Ambassador to Egypt witnessed the signing of 3 contracts between the Egyptian National Railways Authority and U.S. Progress Rail to upgrade the state railway sector. The deal will modernize 100 Henschel locomotives, supply spare parts for 141 locomotives for 15 years, in addition to providing technical support over the upcoming 10 years. Minister Al-Wazir said that the contracts are part of his ministry's new strategy to support and upgrade the current fleet, increase the number of trips on the network, improve services, meet the growing needs of transportation. Egypt's bourse closed higher today, the weekend session amid purchases by local investors against sell-offs by Arab and foreign investors and Arab corporations. The market capital of listed companies added 45 billion Egyptian pounds, reaching 2.1 trillion pounds at the end of transactions that stood at 4.2 billion pounds. The benchmark index EGX 30 rose 2.43%, and the equal weighted indices EGX 70 and EGX 100 climbed 2.7% and 2.57% respectively. The EU posed plans for retaliatory tariffs on U.S. goods today after U.S. President Donald Trump suspended higher U.S. duties on the bloc and other countries. The European Union, which had faced a 20% tariff, welcomed Trump's U-turn, saying it was a significant step towards stabilizing the global economy. The 27-nation bloc responded with its own olive branch, suspending for 90 days tariffs on 20 billion euros worth of U.S. goods that had been greenlit in retaliation to duties on steel and aluminium. Dear viewers, by that we come to the end of our news bulletin. Thanks for watching. I'm Basma Taha signing off.